Hello, dear listeners. I'm Arpit Malhotra, and welcome to the episode 3 of Arpit's Mind Lab. In today's episode, we are going to talk about sleep and the opposite of sleep, which is wakefulness. We are also going to talk about in detail light and the role that it plays in increasing our dopamine levels or motivation levels. We'll briefly talk about the role that it plays in controlling our hunger pangs if we expose ourselves to particular kinds of light during our particular times of day, and the role that it could play in decreasing our stress levels. Apart from that, there will be talks about how we can bring in light as an agent that can help us in phase shifting our sleep cycles. If you are waking up late and sleeping late, then we can have tools such as light and other tools that we'll briefly touch upon that can help you in waking up at 7 a.m. and feeling sleepy at around 10 p.m. We'll also talk about certain popular questions where Indian parents keep telling their children that they should sleep early, wake up early, and probably we'll give them logical weaponry for this argument. Apart from that, there will be talks about how uh, the exposure to dim yellow lights in the evening in our rooms can help us have sound and peaceful sleep. So, coming to sleep. Sleep is this incredible part of our lives, phase of our lives, where we are essentially not interacting with the outside world. And the mirror image of sleep is wakefulness. If you have had a sound sleep of 6 to 8 hours and you wake up, this molecule adenosine is very low in your body. And as you go throughout your day for 14 to 16 hours, this adenosine molecule starts building up. And this molecule basically is the molecule that helps you go back to sleep. When we talk about adenosine, we have to talk about this other molecule, caffeine, found in coffee, of course, and in many other drinks, as we all know. Caffeine is this molecule which has a high affinity, higher than adenosine, towards the adenosine receptors. So, if you consume caffeine, what it does is that it goes and parks itself at the adenosine receptors. And as you go through the 14 to 16 hours of your waking day, this caffeine wears off and the adenosine goes and binds itself to the adenosine receptors, sometimes with more affinity, which is why we feel a crash after a full day. Now, as we all know, or the people who have pulled an all nighter, is that if you have been awake throughout the night and then step outside at around 7 or 8 a.m., something happens in your body and you are not sleepy anymore, even though the adenosine has been building up now, not just for 14 to 16 hours, but much longer. So, what is it that is happening? Basically, if you expose yourself to enough light at early part of the day, around 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., another rhythm of the body starts, which is the circadian rhythm. And it starts with cortisol impulse being released by the adrenaline gland. Adrenaline gland is also the gland that releases epinephrine or adrenaline, which is responsible for alertness or wakefulness. So, this cortisol is released, which triggers another cycle, the circadian cycle, because of which, in the another 14 to 16 hour window, another molecule will be released, which is called melatonin. Now, cortisol, as we all know, is this molecule that also triggers the release of dopamine, particularly during our peak working hours, that is 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., which is why we feel very motivated. And dopamine, interestingly enough, is also a precursor to epinephrine, which means that your epinephrine levels will be high, your dopamine levels will be high, but that is only if you expose yourself to the morning sunlight at around 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. Now, why do I keep saying sunlight? Somebody would say that I could expose myself to the bright light that is coming from my phone screen or my laptop screen, or I could switch on all the lights in my room. You can download this app called Light Meter, and it essentially measures the intensity and the amount of light in your surroundings. And when you measure in, even if your entire lights of your room are switched on, even then the amount of light won't exceed more than around 500 lux. On the other hand, if you take your phone outside, you will see that the amount of light is around 1500 lux. And this is the essential part. You need to expose yourself to around 10,000 to 15,000 lux in of the morning sunlight to trigger those cortisol impulses. Now, the other thing is we talk about melatonin, which is released around 14 to 16 hours after the first cortisol impulse. Somebody would say that if I want to correct my sleep cycle, I want to sleep early, can I not take melatonin that is available, which was manufactured in lab? And the answer is no, for particular reasons. One reason is that it is very difficult to control the dosage of melatonin that is manufactured in lab. And essentially, the dosage could be 15% to 400% of the mentioned dosage on your bottle or your strips. Other than that, melatonin has been known to have a bad effect on your dopamine levels, which can lead to many different side effects like your motivation levels, leading to different kinds of depression. Of course, there are different other reasons for depression, but this could be one of the reasons. And there is one very particular reason that melatonin should not be consumed off the shelf. And the reason is that melatonin suppresses the onset of puberty. In young children, they should particularly not be consuming melatonin because it suppresses the onset of puberty. And in children, particularly in infants, the melatonin release cycle, and we'll briefly touch upon it, that if your cortisol is being released at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., then your melatonin is bound to be released in your body by around 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., right? But in children, that is not the case. This clock is not there. This circadian rhythm is not there, which is why infants can sleep anytime, because melatonin can be released by their pineal gland at any time of the day. Pineal is the gland which rests right below your ventricles, and that's the gland that releases melatonin. Now, coming to the exposure of light. Now we will talk about the things that you can take to improve your sleep cycle towards the end of the video. But let's briefly talk about, an interesting anecdotal fact. If you expose yourself to sunlight during your peak working hours, that is 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., what happens is that this hormone, which is the melanocyte stimulating hormone, is released. Now, you have to differentiate between your melatonin and the melanocyte stimulating hormone. Melanocyte stimulating hormone basically triggers the release of melanin, which gives color to your skin, the pigment to your skin, right? And it plays other roles as well. One role that it plays is that it reduces your epinephrine levels, your excess epinephrine levels, and thus reduces your stress. Apart from that, it also triggers the response, that is the CCK response, which we talked about in the previous video, which basically gives you a satiety and your hunger pangs go away. Other than that, there is also a benefit of MSH, which is that it prevents the graying of your hair. Now, coming to the bad effects of light. It has been found among a lot of individuals that exposing yourself to, even if it is a room light or a dim screen light of your phone, that actually triggers a cortisol response in your body if you are exposing yourself to such lights between 8 p.m. and around 2 to 4 a.m. Now, what that means is that cortisol response at those times of the day will trigger low dopamine levels. It has been found that your motivation levels or your dopamine levels will decrease if you expose yourself to light between 8 p.m. and around 4 a.m., particularly between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. So you need to dim your lights between your 8 p.m. and your sleeping hours. And particularly, you need to expose yourself, if you want to the red parts of the light. Hence, the dim yellow lights of your room could be a solution if you want to have a sound and good sleep and not affect your dopamine levels or your motivation levels. Now, what are the key takeaways from this episode? The key takeaways, one is that you need to start waking up early and exposing yourself to enough sunlight. And now I want to talk about phase shift also over here. The people who are facing this problem of waking up late around 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. and sleeping late around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., what they can do is that they can wake up around 1 hour or 1.5 hours early and go for a brief period of exercise. It could be a very mild exercise like a brief and very mild walk. What it will do, that it will phase shift your entire circadian rhythm, and after around 2 or 3 days, not a week or a month, after just around 2 or 3 days, you will start waking up at around 7:30 8 a.m. and you will start to feel sleepy around 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. It's that remarkable. And what you can also do is include in case of the problem of phase shift, you can expose yourself to enough light before you finally open your eyes. And how you can do so is by opening the blinds when you sleep, and as you wake up, the sunlight enters your room, and even through the light exposure, even through your eyelids, will trigger that cortisol response that will help you in phase shifting your entire circadian rhythm. The other thing is exposing yourself to sunlight during your peak hours, which is around 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., will help you in reducing your stress, will help you in reducing your unnecessary hunger pangs, and of course, it will prevent the graying of the hair, sometimes even reversing it. And finally, never ever expose yourself to light between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. It will have an effect on your dopamine levels, an adverse effect. Finally, we come to the question of what we can take in the form of some substance that can help us in sleeping early. One of the most safe substance that we can take is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha relaxes your body, it reduces your epinephrine levels, and it will help you sleep. If you take ashwagandha around 8 p.m., then you will start feeling sleepy around 11 p.m. Finally, there is this thing that before your body finally sleeps, there is that brief period where you feel yourself wide awake. And evolutionarily, this was to make the humans alert just before they sleep so that they can have a proper reiki of their environment and ensure that they are safe. You have to go through that period, and when you are feeling alert or conscious in that period, even then don't expose yourself to light, and you will finally reach that stage where your body will go into sleep. So sleep early, wake up early, feel fresh, feel motivated, and see you in the next episode. Do share this video with your friends and family and help us support in this channel.